betting on Terror Train. All aboard. There's this great quad, British quad, that's like black and white, and it's a shot of, what's his name, with the knife up to his throat. And it's got the greatest tagline ever, which I think is only on the British one. British poster, which is, "Don't waste your money on a return fare." And that's great. I think it's only on like the British, quad. And I'm here to review, of course, one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Terror Train. And this is a review that is I want to do for like the past 2 years, ever since Huge Movie Fanatics was born. And I'm an anal OCD kind of bastard, so I tend to like to only review movies in the kind of the time of the year they take place, and this movie takes place on New Year's Eve. So this is close enough. I mean, we're close enough to New Year's to be able to do it. So here we go. I mean, Terror Train, like I say, it's one of my favorite movies. I think I saw it for the first time when I would have been 15. And this is there's very few movies that actually, like after I got into my teens, because movies scared me when I was a kid, but after I got like past 12 and 13 and 14, movies didn't scare me. This, along with The Shining, is one of the only movies that actually creeped me out, like when I was a teenager when I saw it, because the way it's made really creeps me out. Some of the scenes, in particular, the scene where, what's his name? God, I don't even remember the character's name. Oh, it's Doc. I think all they call him is Doc, and I can't remember the guy who plays him, but I like the character. I like the guy who plays him. But when he's left alone, he just kicks Jamie Lee Curtis out of his room, and he locks her out, and he's in that room. First of all, the music in this movie is flippin' phenomenal. And it's one of the things when I was a teenager, when I first saw it. I was pretty sure I first saw it when I was 15. One of the things that freaked me out the most about this movie and that scene with Doc, basically his death scene in the cabin car, or the room when he's like searching all the closets and all, he's trying to find the killer. The music in that scene makes that scene so freaking scary. So yeah, Terror Train is actually, and I had a friend at the time, because when I was watching it over and over when I first discovered it back then when I was 15, and I told him, he knew that movies didn't scare me, and I told him, this one scares me, and he's like, "I'm surprised that scares you." But there's a certain something about like The Shining, technical aspects of The Shining and Terror Train, which are ironically both photographed by the same guy, John Alcott. And that's another thing I have to mention is the guy who shot Barry. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but Barry Lyndon, Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and The Shining. I don't know if he did Full Metal Jacket or not, but he did those 3 really important Kubrick movies. Actually shot Terror Train. So Terror Train is one of the best looking horror movies ever made, basically, as a result. I mean, it's the kind of cinematography that I like, which is actually very available, light looking. It looks very beautiful, and thanks Santa Claus that Shout Factory put out the Blu-ray like a couple years ago, or I don't think it was last year. It might have been the year before. I can't remember. It's just time But I'd highly recommend, obviously, the Shout Factory Blu-ray of Terror Train, which is really cool because usually when they do new transfers of movies, it really looks all clean and crisp. But there's actually a lot of artifacts on the Blu-ray of Terror Train, which I actually like. Because it gives it that kind of grindhouse feel, and I think there's more artifacts on the Blu-ray of Transfer of Terror Train than there were on the DVD that came out, the actual Fox DVD. But I don't mind, because I actually like artifacts. I know, like the reviewers at Blu-ray.com, obviously anything on the picture is just, they think is just horrible. Artifacts are just it's a bad thing. But for me, I like that because it reminds you of like being at some trashy drive-in or something like that, watching this, exploitation slasher movie that's been, shown hundreds of times already. So I actually like the fact that there's some artifacts. I think it's kind of in the beginning of reels. I don't think it lasts, it's all the time, but it's definitely there, and I don't mind it. So I'd highly recommend, obviously, the Blu-ray, which is a Blu-ray DVD combo from Shout Factory, Scream Factory, whatever, of Terror Train, just on a side note. But this movie is obviously 4 stars. It's one of my favorite movies, and I watch it pretty much all the time in the winter this time of year. I haven't watched it yet this season, but I'm gonna start because, I'll start this time of year and I'll just rewatch it over and over all winter because I absolutely love it. Everything about this movie for me is perfect. The casting is phenomenal. Jamie Lee Curtis is just classic scream queen, and I love Hart Brochner or whatever is the guy who plays Doc. I love all the people they got to play the characters. Jack, Jackson, and I can't remember the guy, the boyfriend of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. You think I'd remember, but you got Jackson and his girlfriend. But anyway, this is one of the classic, beautiful beginnings of. It has one of the classic early '80s slasher beginnings, which is of course which we mentioned before in reviews, The Incident. And a lot of slasher movies of this era, like Halloween and not so much Friday the 13th, because that's not what caused everything to go bad in the beginning of the movie, but Halloween, Prom Night, stuff like that begin the movie with the reason for the rest of the movie's existence, which is they play these assholes at the on New Year's Eve on some college party, or play a prank on Kenny Hampson by, this is a spoiler-laden review, obviously, because this movie's over 30 years old, but, this horrible thing, which I'm sure has probably happened somewhere in some frat house in the country, before or after this movie came out, where, these kids are medical students, so this guy got a job as practically a janitor, alright? So I go in there to work one night, and there's this lady, the poor soul, who had just fallen apart. I promise these dorks are always going to come up with something truly special. But basically this asshole took a dead body of a woman from the coroner, or not the coroner, but the morgue where he worked or whatever, and he's practically a janitor, right? And set the corpse up in the bed. I mean, her arms aren't even attached. They just had to kind of just set her up with a wig in the bed, and they played this prank where Jamie Lee Curtis's character was behind the bed. She didn't know that was a corpse. She just thought it was some living friend of theirs. And so here she's set up basically to do this prank on Kenny when she had no idea it was a corpse. She just thought it was someone just sitting in the bed. And so Kenny Hampson goes in there with it looks like yellow underwear. Well, he's wearing clothes, but he strips down with like white tank top and yellow underwear, and he's like, she's like, don't be shy, it's my first time too, and he gets all stripped down and he goes in the bed, and it's just the most, first of all, the movie starts off with this horribly shocking opening, which actually creeped me out, and the music is freaking genius. The opening of this movie is absolutely fantastic, where it really starts off on a great early 80s slasher, The Incident kind of a beginning with the beginning, and it goes in and the corpse falls back and her arms fall off and she's got an incision down her, and it's just like, and the music that's going on really just weirds you out, and the people come in the room and they're laughing, and it's like Jamie Lee Curtis is like, oh my god, she didn't know what it was until just then, and he gets all tangled in the bed stuff, and then it fades out. I'm not going to do a play-by-play of the whole movie, but I love this movie, and I'm just getting so excited talking about it. But obviously the title sequence and the music is great, and they have this ding-ding, like, train bell, and it's just like, oh, I got to watch this movie maybe tomorrow. This movie is freaking great. But I love the fact that it takes place during the winter and New Year's Eve, and it's cold and stuff, and that's actually an aspect of the movie that the reason why when they stop the train they can't just go try to hike to a road, because as Ben Johnson famously says in the trailer, it actually echoes, in this weather you'll die, you'll die, if you watch the trailer, that when he says you'll die, it's got that echo, which is really funny. But so it's freezing cold, so if they can't, they have to go back in the cars, which is a good excuse for them, to have to go back in the cars. But I could go on and on and on and on and on for Terror Train. I think the atmosphere is absolutely first-rate, fantastic, largely due to John Alcott's beautiful cinematography and the fantastic music, and one of the fantastic things about The Killers is that throughout, it's not just a killer with one costume throughout the movie, and I think it's kind of rare. I haven't seen every slasher movie ever made, but it's, you know, where the killer changes costume. I mean, Michael Myers has got one costume as the whole movie, and this guy, he's got a costume for every kill, which is just absolutely genius. The one thing that's a little bit of a, you know, a stretch is the fact that the guy who plays Kenny Hampson is so skinny, and that guy that he killed with the, like, the Harpo mask and everything was so, like, not so skinny. That, but of course the great thing about it is that everyone's all stoned and drunk, so they're not going to necessarily notice that, you know, this guy lost all kinds of weight, that the guy's all skinny. And obviously the very end of the movie where Kenny Hampson's in that classic whatever the hell mask with, you know, the final act mask, where he's not the final because, but whatever, the one where he's chasing Jamie Lee Curtis all around, where he's got the, but he'll kill people off and then he'll take their costumes. It's just genius. I really don't, I can't let it go by without obviously mentioning Ben Johnson, which was a big name on the movie, of course, because he was just beyond classic actor in his own right. And I love his character in this movie. It's just like, they'll have all kinds of little character bits with him and the other, you know, employees on the train, of that nerd guy, that rail enthusiast, where how much does it cost to get that beer? Or how much? Oh, I can't remember. I should know the line, but pretty soon the only way to get that beer can somewhere is to load it on a flat car. And guess who'll be driving the train? You can cook, you can take a shower, you can watch TV, and by God, you can hang a left if you feel like it. Poor deluded boy. And that band, I try again to look up online to actually get some of those songs. The band's name who plays in the movie is Crime, I believe, is the name of the band who play them classic songs, which is like, he's the one with the power, man of the hour, and everyone's calling his name. I mean, I want those songs, and there's like one song or a couple songs, or, you know, done by Crime, of course. And I can't forget, I can't end the review without mentioning, of course, David Copperfield, who I think was kind of at the beginning of his career at the time. He looks like he's 25 or 26 in the movie. He's really young. Who is he the, you know, the killer or not? I don't know. But this, like I say, there's nothing, for me, there's nothing wrong with this movie. I have absolutely no qualm with watching this movie over and over and over again. Terror Train, once again, is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, before I wear out my welcome, which I may have already done, I'm gonna, you know, pull the chain and get all aboard and stuff like that. So, I'm just thinking of the movie and just, I can't get over how great the music is. It's just absolutely fantastic. Don't waste your money on a return fare. Terror Train. Thanks for watching.